In the summer of 1776, Williamsburg was a tapestry of contrasts. The cobblestone streets bustled with life during the day, but as twilight descended, a palpable tension filled the air. Everywhere you looked, there were whispers of rebellion and discontent. The Sons of Liberty gathered in secret, while Loyalists plotted in shadowy corners. Among the citizens, a sense of urgency permeated every conversation, every glance exchanged. Young Thomas Harrington, only 16, moved through this world like a leaf caught in the wind, longing for purpose. He was the son of Alexander Harrington, a renowned spymaster whose name was spoken with both reverence and fear. Alexander had dedicated his life to the Patriot cause, weaving a web of informants that spanned the colonies. Yet to Thomas, he was simply his father, a man of mystery and unyielding expectations. "Stay close to home, Thomas," his father often admonished. "You're not yet ready for the dangers of this world." But Thomas felt the pull of adventure, the call to fight for his country. He admired his father's bravery and cleverness but struggled under the weight of his father's skepticism. How could he prove himself worthy of the Harrington name if he was never given a chance to try? Chapter 2, An unexpected opportunity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the town, Thomas wandered the streets, drawn by a strange compulsion. The local tavern, known as the King's Crown, was alive with laughter and conversation. It was here that he often overheard fragments of crucial intelligence, if only he could gather enough to make a difference. Peering through the window, Thomas caught sight of familiar faces, local Loyalists laughing over mugs of ale. Intrigued, he decided to slip inside, cloaked in the shadows, hoping to learn more about their plans. He found a secluded corner where he could listen without being seen. As the night wore on, the conversations became more heated. Thomas strained to catch snippets. He heard one man, William Bellingham, voice his frustration with the Patriots' growing resolve. "We must strike hard and fast," Bellingham insisted. "If we disrupt their next meeting, we can sow enough discord to fracture their unity." Thomas's heart raced. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. Gathering his courage, he focused intently, absorbing every word. Chapter 3, A dangerous game. With newfound determination, Thomas slipped out of the tavern and made his way home, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The weight of his discovery felt heavy, but he knew he had to share it with his father. As he crept through the back door, he found Alexander in his study, surrounded by maps and documents. "Father," Thomas began, breathless, "I overheard something crucial tonight. The Loyalists are planning to disrupt the next Patriot meeting." Alexander looked up, surprise mingled with concern. "What do you mean? Tell me everything." Thomas recounted the details, watching as his father's expression shifted from skepticism to intrigue. "You did well, Thomas. This information could save lives." Together, they devised a plan. Alexander would reach out to his trusted contacts while Thomas would take on the role of a messenger, delivering the warning to key Patriots. This was his chance to prove himself, and he couldn't let it slip away. Chapter 4, The Web of Intrigue. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Thomas learned the importance of discretion as he navigated the town, carefully delivering coded messages to trusted Patriots. Each encounter filled him with purpose. He felt like a character in one of the thrilling stories he had read. However, the more he learned, the more he realized the stakes involved. He witnessed the tension in the streets, the growing divide between Loyalists and Patriots, and the desperation in the eyes of those fighting for freedom. It was not just about political beliefs, it was about survival. One afternoon, Thomas stopped by the local apothecary, where he knew he could find a friend, Eliza, the daughter of the owner. Eliza was spirited and intelligent, often engaging in discussions about the war and its implications. Thomas felt a strong connection to her, one that was deepened by their shared aspirations. "Eliza, have you heard the latest?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She leaned closer, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "I've heard whispers of a major shipment of arms arriving soon. The Loyalists plan to intercept it." "Then we must act quickly," Thomas said, a plan forming in his mind. "If we can warn the Patriots, we might be able to thwart their plans." Eliza nodded, her expression determined. "I'll help. We can spread the word to the other Patriots." Together, they crafted a series of messages, each one carefully encoded to ensure that only the intended recipients would understand. Thomas felt a sense of camaraderie with Eliza as they worked side by side, united by their common goal. Chapter 5. The looming threat. As the days turned into weeks, the tensions continued to escalate. Thomas grew more confident in his role as a messenger, but he also became acutely aware of the dangers lurking in every corner. The Loyalists were vigilant, and Thomas's encounters with them left him on edge. One evening, while delivering a message to a contact at the docks, Thomas spotted a group of Loyalists congregating near the water's edge. Among them stood Bellingham, his presence imposing. Thomas's heart raced as he realized they were discussing the very shipment he and Eliza had sought to warn the Patriots about. He ducked behind a stack of crates, straining to hear their conversation. The words spilled out, revealing the Loyalists' plan to ambush the shipment. Panic surged within him. If he didn't act quickly, countless lives could be at stake. After the meeting broke up, Thomas hurried back to his father, breathless and terrified. "They're planning to intercept a shipment of arms. We have to warn them." Alexander's face hardened with resolve. "Then we must act immediately. Gather our allies and prepare for a counter-strategy." Chapter 6. Preparing for battle. The atmosphere in the Harrington household shifted as they prepared for what lay ahead. Alexander organized a meeting with trusted Patriots, and the air was thick with tension as they strategized. Thomas felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. This was the moment he had been waiting for, a chance to take a stand. As they gathered in the study, the room buzzed with ideas and concerns. "If we can intercept the Loyalists before they reach the shipment," one man suggested, "we might turn the tide in our favor." Alexander nodded, his gaze piercing. "We need to be swift and silent. Thomas, I want you to help coordinate our messengers. You know the town better than anyone." With a firm nod, Thomas accepted the challenge. He felt a swell of pride as he took on this responsibility. He would no longer be the boy lost in his father's shadow, he would be an active participant in the fight for freedom. Chapter 7. The night before the planned ambush felt electric with anticipation. Thomas could hardly sleep, thoughts racing through his mind. He and Eliza had become inseparable in their efforts, often working late into the night to spread the word and gather support. As they sat together on the porch, the stars twinkling overhead, Thomas glanced at Eliza. "Are you scared?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She met his gaze, her expression thoughtful. "Of course. But we have to fight for what we believe in, don't we?" Her determination inspired him, and he felt a bond deepen between them, something unspoken yet palpable. They talked late into the night, sharing their hopes and fears, their laughter mingling with the sounds of the night. Chapter 8. The clash of ideals. The day of the ambush arrived, and tension hung in the air like a thick fog. As dawn broke, Thomas and his father gathered their allies at the designated meeting point. The sun cast long shadows, and the chill of the morning made the air feel electric. "Remember your training," Alexander instructed the group, his voice steady. "We need to outmaneuver them. Stay close, and follow my lead." Thomas's heart raced as he surveyed the assembled Patriots. Each one wore a determined expression, united by a common cause. He felt a sense of responsibility for their safety, knowing that their lives could hinge on the information he had gathered. As they moved towards the docks, Thomas's senses heightened. The sounds of nature were drowned out by the thud of his heartbeat. They arrived just in time to see the Loyalists preparing for their ambush. Bellingham stood at the forefront, barking orders, his face twisted with determination. "Now!" Alexander commanded, and the Patriots surged forward, catching the Loyalists by surprise. Chapter 9, a battle of wits. Chaos erupted as the two sides clashed. Thomas fought alongside his father, his heart pounding with adrenaline. The sound of clashing steel and shouts filled the air, but amidst the chaos, Thomas remained focused. He spotted Eliza, fear etched on her face as she struggled to defend herself against a Loyalist. Without thinking, he rushed to her side, parrying an attack aimed at her. "Stay close," he shouted, their eyes locking in a moment of shared determination. Together, they fought back to back, relying on their instincts and training. Thomas felt a surge of pride as he realized they were truly making a difference, standing up for their beliefs in a world that felt increasingly perilous. The battle raged on, but slowly, the Patriots began to gain the upper hand. Bellingham's orders grew frantic as his men faltered, their resolve shaken by the unexpected resistance. Chapter 10, a hard-won victory. As the dust settled, the Loyalists retreated, their morale shattered. The Patriots stood victorious, breaths heaving as they assessed the aftermath. Thomas's heart swelled with pride. They had done it. They had thwarted the Loyalists' plans and protected their community. Eliza rushed to his side, her face flushed with exhilaration. "We did it," she exclaimed, her eyes shining. "Yes, we did," Thomas replied, still in disbelief at the chaos that had just unfolded. But amid the celebration, he couldn't shake the feeling of weight that settled on his shoulders. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. Chapter 11, a new beginning. In the days following the ambush, the town buzzed with news of the Patriots' victory. Thomas and Eliza became local heroes, their bravery celebrated among friends and allies. But Thomas remained acutely aware of the sacrifices that came with their newfound recognition. One evening, as they sat together on the porch once more, Thomas turned to Eliza, his expression serious. "This isn't over, is it?" She shook her head, her eyes filled with understanding. "No. But we've made a difference, and we'll continue to fight." Their bond grew deeper, forged in the fires of conflict. As they planned their next steps, Thomas felt a sense of purpose solidifying within him. He was no longer just the boy who yearned for adventure, he was a soldier in a cause that mattered. Chapter 12, New Allies and Old Foes. As the weeks passed, the war continued to escalate. Thomas and Eliza worked tirelessly to strengthen their network of informants, gathering intelligence on Loyalist movements. They met with other Patriots, forging alliances that spanned the colonies. During one such meeting, they were introduced to a woman named Clara, a skilled spy who had been gathering information from within Loyalist circles. Clara's intelligence was invaluable, and she quickly became a key player in their operations. "Every piece of information we gather is a weapon in our arsenal," she said during their first meeting. "We need to be strategic in our approach if we hope to turn the tide." Thomas was inspired by Clara's determination. She embodied the spirit of the revolution, and he admired her courage. Together, they crafted a plan to intercept more Loyalist shipments, aiming to undermine their resources and morale. Chapter 13, the weight of choices. However, the stakes were rising. As the Patriots continued to disrupt Loyalist operations, Thomas felt the toll it was taking on his community. Friends and family were caught in the crossfire, and the violence seemed to escalate with each passing day. One evening, while delivering a message, Thomas encountered a group of Loyalists harassing a local shopkeeper. His heart sank as he witnessed the fear in the man's eyes. Thomas knew he had to intervene. "Leave him alone," Thomas shouted, stepping forward. "He's done nothing wrong." The Loyalists turned their attention to him, their expressions darkening. Thomas's heart raced, but he stood firm, refusing to back down. It was a moment of recklessness, but he couldn't allow fear to silence him. "You think you're a hero, boy?" one of the Loyalists sneered. "You're nothing but a traitor." The confrontation escalated, and Thomas's bravado faltered. He realized that each choice he made carried consequences, not just for himself but for those he cared about. In that moment, he understood the weight of the conflict. Chapter 14, Shadows of Betrayal. As the conflict intensified, so did the risks. Thomas and Eliza learned of a potential mole within their ranks, someone feeding information to the Loyalists. The uncertainty gnawed at Thomas, making it difficult to trust even those closest to him. They held clandestine meetings, searching for answers and trying to root out the traitor. Clara's sharp instincts helped them narrow down potential suspects, but the paranoia hung over them like a dark cloud. One evening, as they gathered in a hidden location, Thomas felt the tension in the air. "We need to be vigilant," he urged. "If there's a mole, we can't let our guard down." Eliza nodded, her expression serious. "But we can't let this divide us. We must remain united in our cause." Their determination only strengthened their bond, but the fear of betrayal loomed large. Thomas's instincts screamed at him to be cautious, but he also knew that fear could lead to inaction. Chapter 15, A shifting landscape. The days turned into weeks, and the conflict showed no signs of abating. The Loyalists struck back with renewed fervor, and skirmishes erupted throughout the colonies. Thomas felt the weight of the world pressing down on him, each loss a reminder of the stakes at play. During one particularly brutal clash, Thomas witnessed the devastation firsthand. The townspeople had rallied to protect their homes, but the toll was steep. As he tended to the wounded, he felt the heaviness of despair creeping in. "How do we keep going?" he asked Eliza, his voice strained. "Every victory feels like it comes at a terrible cost." She took his hand, her grip firm. "Because we believe in something greater than ourselves. We have to fight for those who can't." Her words ignited a flicker of hope within him. They would continue to fight, not just for themselves but for a future they envisioned, a future where freedom reigned. Chapter 16, The Breaking Point. As summer faded into autumn, the conflict reached a boiling point. Rumors swirled of a major confrontation, one that could change the course of the revolution. Thomas and Eliza worked tirelessly to gather intelligence, knowing that the stakes had never been higher. Their efforts culminated in a meeting with fellow Patriots, where they discussed the plan for a decisive ambush against the Loyalists. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, but also fear. "This could be it," Thomas said, his heart racing. "If we can intercept them before they reach the supply lines, we might be able to cripple their operations." The Patriots nodded, their expressions grave. The plan was risky, but they knew that inaction would lead to further losses. As they prepared, Thomas felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. Chapter 17, Into the Fray. The day of the ambush dawned bright and clear, the sun shining down as Thomas and the Patriots positioned themselves along the route the Loyalists were expected to take. Tension hung in the air as they waited, each moment stretching into eternity. When the Loyalists finally appeared, Thomas's heart raced. The clash was fierce, and chaos erupted as both sides engaged in battle. Thomas fought alongside Eliza, their movements instinctual as they defended their comrades. In the midst of the chaos, Thomas spotted Bellingham leading the charge. Rage surged through him as he remembered the man's role in the conflict. He pushed forward, determined to confront his foe. Chapter 18, A Bitter Price. As the battle raged on, Thomas found himself face to face with Bellingham. The Loyalist sneered, confidence radiating from him. "You think you can defeat me, boy?" Without hesitation, Thomas charged forward, their blades clashing with a resounding impact. The fight was brutal, each strike a testament to their conflicting ideals. But as they battled, Thomas began to see the futility of their conflict. Each blow struck was a reminder of the lives at stake. With a final surge of strength, Thomas disarmed Bellingham, sending his sword clattering to the ground. Breathing heavily, he pointed his blade at the Loyalists' throat. "It doesn't have to be this way," he said, his voice steady. "We're all fighting for what we believe in." Bellingham's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "You think your ideals will save you?" "Maybe not," Thomas replied, lowering his sword. "But we can find a better way." Chapter 19, A New Path Forward. The battle began to turn in the Patriots' favor, but the victory felt bittersweet. As the Loyalists retreated, Thomas couldn't shake the feeling that their conflict would not be resolved with bloodshed alone. The price of freedom was steep, and he feared for the future. After the battle, Thomas and Eliza walked among the aftermath, tending to the wounded and comforting those who had lost loved ones. The reality of their choices weighed heavily on their hearts. "Did we really win?" Thomas asked, his voice heavy with doubt. Eliza took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "We fought for our beliefs. That's worth something." In the days that followed, the town began to heal, but the scars of the conflict remained. Thomas and Eliza continued their work, but they also sought to build bridges, to understand the perspectives of those who had fought against them. Chapter 20, A Legacy of Change. As winter approached, Thomas and Eliza took the lessons of the war to heart. They organized discussions among townsfolk, inviting both Patriots and Loyalists to share their stories. They believed that understanding could pave the way for healing. With each conversation, Thomas felt a sense of hope blooming. The path to freedom was fraught with challenges, but they had the power to shape their future. One evening, as snow fell softly outside, Thomas gathered with his father, Eliza, and their newfound allies. They spoke of the journey ahead, the challenges yet to be faced. "Change won't come overnight," Alexander said, his voice filled with wisdom. "But together, we can build a new world." Thomas nodded, a sense of purpose igniting within him. He was no longer just his father's apprentice, he was a part of something greater, a movement toward understanding, compassion, and freedom. As the years passed, Thomas and Eliza became pillars of their community. Their efforts to promote dialogue and understanding blossomed, slowly healing the divisions that had once torn them apart. The story of their journey, a tale of bravery, betrayal, and hope, was woven into the fabric of their town's history. Thomas often reflected on the lessons learned, the cost of freedom, and the importance of empathy. In the end, the fight for independence was not just a battle of arms, it was a fight for hearts and minds. Thomas Harrington had emerged as a leader, not just in the shadows of espionage but in the light of a new dawn, a young hero, ready to forge a future where freedom was not just a dream,